Chapter 4, Jade. Jade popped an M&M into her mouth as she waited for art club to begin. Why am I nervous? Cam Smith should be the nervous one. But there was something about him that made her stomach feel all flighty, and she couldn't figure out why. She wrote Mr. Smith on the board. Hey, Miss Easton, a group of students said as they rolled in. The new football coach is really going to teach us about painting? Louisa, a sophomore, looked at her skeptically. He's going to try. Jade smiled and then looked down at her watch. It was 3:27 p.m. He had 3 minutes before he was officially late. Thankfully, she had prepared a lesson herself just in case he bailed or totally flopped. As the clock struck 3:30, Cam strolled through the door with a big black duffel bag in hand. The students stared up at him from their tables. Hey, everyone. Jade noticed the way he pulled his shoulders back and set his bag down on the front table. Who's ready to dominate Impressionism? He said with a smirk. Jade narrowed her eyes at him. Art isn't a competition, it's about the adventure of creating. Exactly. He leaned on the table casually. That's what I meant. And the number one thing to remember about Impressionism is that it's about conveying a feeling rather than an accurate depiction. And also, Impressionist pieces are usually painted outdoors. Oh, geez, he's jumping right in, acting like he's been an art scholar all his life, Jade thought to herself as she popped another M&M in her mouth. Cam straightened. So, who's ready for a field trip? Jade moved toward him and whispered, Field trip? You never said anything about a field trip. Surprise, he grinned widely. Then he turned back to the class. I've arranged for Vans to take us to one of my favorite places in the world. Should give us lots of inspiration. I know it did for me. Grab your stuff and let's go. Jade took a deep breath, trying to stifle the anxiousness from lack of control. As they walked toward the 2 white vans waiting for them, she asked, You gonna tell me where we're headed? Cam smirked, holding out his arm to let her walk through the door first. Where's the fun in that? Jade felt tense. We're not going too far, right? The kids have to be back by 5 for pickup. Don't worry, Easton. We'll be back by then. Grabbing an M&M from her pocket, Jade sighed. What do you keep eating? Should I be concerned? Jade froze with her hand inches from her mouth. They're my emotional support M&Ms, if you must know. Cam sputtered, What? With a chuckle. Trying to act casual and not at all embarrassed for being caught with her edible crutch, Jade replied, Chocolate is my stress reliever. Smirking, Cam said, And what in the world could you possibly be stressed about? You have the best football coach in America teaching your art club, unless you're intimidated, which I totally understand. He winked before walking past her to open the back of a van. Jade shook her head to show annoyance, not to shake the pop rocks jumping in her stomach at his teasing. As everyone climbed into the vans, unease rolled through her. Sitting in the first row, she saw Cam enter the van ahead of her. Being as they were the only adults, they had to split up. Jade was thankful for the opportunity to get some space from the frustrating man that was Cam Smith. Rolling out her neck, she tried to relax and enjoy the ride. That didn't last long. She noted that 12 minutes had passed and they were in the middle of nowhere. Fields and trees were the only thing in sight. She felt a headache coming on and she was out of M&Ms. We should have exchanged numbers. I have no way of communicating with Cam about what in the world we're doing. At that moment, the van in front of her slowed and made a right turn. They began bouncing down a dirt road. A circle driveway soon appeared, bringing them in front of a white farmhouse with a wide front porch. Where are we? It's like the cover of a Southern Living magazine. Jade made her way out of the vehicle. As the students trickled out of the vans, she walked toward Cam. What is this place? Smiling proudly, he said, My home. Well, technically it's my mom's house, but I live here too, to help her take care of the farm. Jade looked around. This is beautiful, but they still don't know how to paint Impressionism. We learned about famous Impressionists, but I didn't teach them much about technique. Putting a hand on her shoulder, he smiled. Don't worry, I got this. In a deep voice, he hollered, All right, y'all, huddle up. Huddle up, Jade stifled a laugh. Once a coach, always a coach. Welcome to Smith & Sons Farm. Right down this path is what we'll be painting today. Grab an easel and a canvas, and let's get going. Griffin, a freshman with saggy blonde hair, tapped Jade's shoulder. Miss Easton, you got reception out here? This is kind of creepy. Where's he taking us? Jade peered down at her phone. 1 bar. She answered more confidently than she felt. We'll be fine. Enjoy yourself. Take in nature. A few minutes later, they came upon a clearing. A magnificent weeping willow tree sat next to a glimmering pond. Jade was lost for words at the simple beauty in front of her. It was truly the perfect setting for an Impressionist painting. Cam stopped and pointed to the edge of the pond. All right, you can set up anywhere along here, but first let's talk about technique. You want to use loose and fluid brush strokes. He held up an imaginary paintbrush to demonstrate. It's not about getting everything perfect. It's more about conveying the emotion of the landscape. Go ahead now, give it a try. The students spread out and began setting up their easels. Miss Easton, Griffin raised his hand. The leg on this wood thing broke again. Jade walked over. Got it. She pulled a roll of duct tape out of her purse. You sure are prepared. Cam came up behind her. As soon as I realized you were having the students load up the easels, I grabbed it. As you can see, they're a little beat up. Jade finished wrapping the wood easel leg and gave it a gentle nudge. The duct tape held, but a wobble was still present. Cam held out his hand. Here, let me add a little duct tape under this other leg to stabilize it. After getting Griffin situated, Jade and Cam both scanned the view before them. It's incredible here, Jade admitted. Yeah, I love it. It even gave me the inspiration I needed to make my own painting. Jade raised her eyebrows. You created an impressionist painting? Cam nodded, still looking ahead. Sure did. I'm gonna need to see proof. Then she raised her voice. Y'all want to see Mr. Smith's impressionist painting, right? Heads nodded along with a few cheers. Yeah, let's see it. Cam walked over to his duffel bag. Before unzipping it, he said, Y'all sure? I don't want to intimidate you with my creative genius. Chuckles rumbled through the students. Jade pursed her lips to hold back a smile. He pulled out what looked to be a 12-inch by 18-inch canvas with the blank white back facing the students that had crowded around them. Now remember, some people are just born with a gift. Don't feel bad if yours isn't as pretty as mine, he teased. I'm just kidding. Try not to laugh. I gave it my best beginner effort. Then he cautiously flipped it toward them. Jade cocked her head and studied his impressionist painting. Thick and clearly visible brushstrokes made a collage of colors. Hey, that's not bad, Louisa said, sounding shocked. Well, thank you, Cam replied. Impressionism is much harder than it looks. What do you think, Miss Easton? A girl named Taylor asked. Cam peered over at her, and she thought she saw a flash of nerves in his eyes. Jade held up a hand to her chin, weighing her words carefully. Well, the strength of the piece is how he used broken color, which means he used short strokes without blending. Although there's room for improvement as far as recognizable objects, I think when it comes to the overall spirit of Impressionism, he nailed it. Then, looking at Cam, she said, You really captured the landscape with honesty and emotion. Great job. Why, thank you, Miss Easton. That means a lot. Cam tilted his ball cap as if it were a cowboy hat and winked at her. Or at least she thought he did. It was so subtle and smooth, she wasn't sure. He turned toward the students. All right, back to work. You have 45 minutes to complete your paintings. As Cam mingled with the students, Jade stilled, studying him just as she did his canvas a few moments earlier. The way he stood tall with his broad shoulders and then pierced you with his bright eyes reminded her of a grizzly bear, but not in a bad way, in the way that bears are strong and protective. She imagined herself curled up next to him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What is happening? She shook her head to rid the image from her mind. Focus, Jade. On the van ride back to the school, she thought about how impressed she was with Cam. He really stepped up and did well. He was fully invested in the students, making sure to give each of them individual feedback and attention. She could see that he was probably a really great coach, but that didn't change the fact that the art club deserved their fair share of the donation. Cam had to see that now, right?